Let's not meet. I got into a car with multiple strange men in Fiji. Sorry if my writing is sloppy, I'm not sober ATM. Haven't really told this to anyone outside of a few friends jokingly, but now looking back on it, the very thought of what could have happened to me is horrifying. This was about 4 years ago. I have PTSD and severe depression, and at the time neither of these were being treated and the PTSD was undiagnosed. I also have autism, but you cannot treat that anyway, so it is irrelevant to this story. So needless to say, I was not in a healthy headspace. At the time I was volunteering in Fiji over the summer. I had volunteered there a few years before, so I felt pretty safe going there despite not being in the best mental health, and I had gone down to the local market to get gifts for my family and friends. As I'm leaving, a man offers to give me a ride back to where I'm staying. I was staying with a Fijian family and one of their dogs had followed me into town, so I told them that they would have to bring the dog too, and they agreed to let the dog into the car. Mind you, this dog was fucking rank. It had probably never had a bath in its life, so this should have been a massive red flag. But unfortunately, because of my PTSD that I did not even know I had, I was dissociating heavily at the time and was not thinking clearly at all. I was barely aware of anything around me, let alone keen on what situations seemed dangerous. Not to mention, a big part of the Fijian culture is being overly generous and kind, so offers like this from strangers was not nearly as strange as it would be anywhere else. So I got into the car with the smelly mutt. Lovely dog, by the way, her name was Mama, would not hurt a fly and very sweet, just, you know, an outdoor dog that was literally never bathed. And as the driver is getting settled comes two other men, one in the front seat and one in the back. As he was starting the car, something clicked in my head. I realized I was a young woman. I'm a trans man, but I was early in my transition at the time, alone in another country, that had just gotten into a car with multiple strange men, and what that could mean. So I tried to open the door, and after I realized it was locked, I asked the driver to unlock it and told them I had changed my mind and to let me out. They stalled for a moment but then unlocked the door, probably because we were in an incredibly busy marketplace. I got out with Mama and they immediately sped off. A few people there asked me if I was okay and I told them everything was fine and walked home with Mama. Anyway, I ended up in a mental health facility for 5 months shortly after I came home. I am now medicated, regularly seeing a therapist, and I am happier and more mentally healthy than I have ever been in my life. But remembering that day and imagining what could have gone down gives me a lot of anxiety to this day. I think me and my friend were almost abducted. Short one. Back when I was about 6 to 7, my friend and I were climbing trees and eating berries. This guy comes walking up and says, "Why aren't you eating real food? Why are you eating berries?" He then says that he will take us to a restaurant. So, we walk with him and he takes us to this super seedy bar. We sit down and me and my buddy start getting a real bad vibe, like way uncomfortable. So, we tell him that we are gonna go and he kept trying to talk us into staying, but we were adamant about leaving. As we are leaving out the door he yells after us like, "Hey," and as we turn around he looks at us with a creepy sorrowful look and says, "Stay out of trouble, don't talk to strangers." It was very bizarre and who knows what would have happened if we stayed with him. So weird stranger from when I was a kid, let's not meet again. It's not paranoid to make sure you aren't actually being followed. This happened a few years ago when I was still living with my mom and I had borrowed her car to go see my then boyfriend for the evening. It was around midnight when I got back to my neighborhood, so the roads were empty. And that's when I noticed this dirty, run-down, rusted, white utility van that a maintenance guy would drive, following me. I never ever saw the driver's face, but I got this immediate sinking feeling in my stomach because something felt wrong about this van. Now I was only 20 at the time, but I knew better than to just drive straight to my house and letting this person know exactly where I live, no matter how desperately I wanted to just go home and ignore it. But I also wasn't 100% sure they were actually following me yet. I didn't want to jump to conclusions just because it was late and I was alone and being paranoid. So I drove to a shopping complex a few minutes out of the way that's well lit and has a public library to see if I was followed there. I thought I lost the van but decided to wait in the parking lot for a few minutes because I had a bad feeling I just couldn't shake. Sure enough, the van showed up and was driving in random circles around the parking lot, looking for me. This scared me quite a bit, so I drove towards the big mall here that's always got security/police presence, because it was the midway point between where I was and where I lived. I parked in a pretty well lit, although empty, 24-hour McDonald's parking lot where I had a great view of the roads and the mall, but I wasn't super easy to spot, and waited to see if the van showed up looking for me. It did. And of course this would be the one-time security and the cops are nowhere to be found, which was half the reason I decided to head there in the first place. Realizing whoever was driving this van was 100% actively following me in the middle of the night, I knew just driving home was not an option, and that's a terrifying realization. Luckily the police station is just a few minutes away from where I was. So I try and discreetly drive away, hoping the van hasn't noticed me yet. I wasn't that lucky because it wasn't long before the van was back in my rearview mirror. At this point I'm panicking pretty hard and my anxiety is high. I finally pulled into the police station parking lot, and seconds later the van came to a stop in the middle of the road for no more than a few seconds. I'm guessing just long enough for them to realize where I led them, and they took off immediately. And so fast. I did make it home safe and without seeing the van again not long after, but this whole ordeal took up at least an hour of my night. It was after 1 a.m. by the time I made it home. And I was terrified the whole time. I don't know what this guy's specific intention was, but honestly I don't need to know. I know it was nothing good and I likely avoided a very bad situation. If you think someone is following you, it's not stupid or paranoid to make sure you aren't right. Who knows what might have happened if I had led them to my house or gotten out of the car. Guy who tried to sell me illegal human remains. I stopped at a little antique shop one day while I was living in Pennsylvania. I'd passed by this place many times before and never went in, but I was looking for a specific item for an art project. The place was small, dusty and crowded with antiques, and the walls were lined with glass cabinets containing curios. The man working there was in his mid-50s and immediately gave me an odd vibe. I could feel his eyes following me as I shopped, so I quickly found what I needed and went to ring it up. He gave me a conspiratorial smile and said, "Want to see something cool? You just can't tell anyone it's here." He then pointed to a ladder that went to the top of one of the cabinets. I was already weirded out by this guy, but I'm also a nosy bitch, so I climbed up the ladder. On top of the cabinet was a coffin containing a full human skeleton. I climbed down quickly and he said, "It's a 50-year-old Chinese woman. I can sell her to you for $3,000. I said no thanks and left immediately. To this day I wonder where he actually got it, hoping it was donated, but there were a lot of missing women in the area, and why he thought I looked like someone who'd want to buy a corpse. Either way, let's not meet. Sketchy guy who maybe was intending to kidnap my daughters. Creep that tried to kidnap my kids. So I'm a first-time poster here. A little backstory. I've been a stay-at-home mom since 2012, this fall my youngest started kindergarten. I have 2 girls. So it was mid-morning. Both my girls are at school and I'm laying on my bed reading a book. I can see through my open door through the living room to the hallway that leads to the girls' room, their bathroom and playroom. I hear a noise and look up to see a middle-aged white male with blue gloves, like your bug man would wear, walk in my garage door. I freeze, not knowing what to do. I know my bug man. This is not him, and the guy didn't knock. He immediately heads down the hallway that is just my children's rooms. I call my husband. I have no idea why I didn't call 911. My husband calls the police and his brother, who lives 2 minutes away. He must have gone to the playroom because maybe a minute has gone by. I'm going for a weapon and I hear my dog start to growl. She sleeps under my girl's bed during the day, and so I yell, "Here, Belle." And the man comes out to the right where the garage door is at the front of the hallway, and my lab Belle runs to me in the room. He stutters out, "No one is supposed to be home," and I say my husband is on his way now, and he mutters something as he exits the garage. I'm totally freaking the F out, but I get up and of all the things I grab, I get a Maasai tiger stick my brother-in-law brought home from a missionary trip to Africa and run out after this dude. There's no car, he's gone, and my brother-in-law and the police pull up at the same time, not a minute after the guy made his exit. I told them I was fine, maybe he was a bug man who got the wrong house. The police didn't pass a bug man vehicle on the way in my neighborhood. We have one entrance to the neighborhood. That's when it hit me, the gloves he was wearing. They were the blue dental gloves my husband brings home from his office for me to clean with. They sit on a table right beside the garage door before you walk in. I ran back and checked my girl's room and then to the back playroom. The playroom window had been unlocked on both sides. I know it was the man because it had been extremely hot weather for weeks and I kept all the windows shut, locked, and blinds closed. The blinds were open as well. So to the man who I'm pretty sure was setting up a way to kidnap my girls, let's not meet. Creepy van dude. Let's not meet. I would like to start off with I am an 18-year-old female. I have a baby face and I'm quite short, so it's easy to mistake me for 13 to 15. I tend to wear baggy clothes as well, which covers a lot of my curves, making me look even younger. I take my brother on a walk in the mornings for exercise and fresh air. I live in a pretty safe area and police regularly patrol. This particular day I was wearing exercise clothes instead of my normal baggy clothes, and the fact my hair is bright blue also tends to catch attention when I notice the stereotypical white van driving up the street. There's a couple in my area because there's some local businesses, but their windows aren't tinted. It seems to get slower as it gets closer to me. I can see the window starting to roll down when I quickly pretend I get a phone call and answer loudly, "Hey mom." "Yes, I took Gabe for a walk, I'll be home in about 5 minutes." As soon as I pretended to answer my phone, the van speed off. I have a lot of weird/creepy stuff I might share. I'm a magnet for it. Did you make it through the whole video? If so, thank you for your time. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Have a good day, or night, or evening, or morning, or whatever.